At that time in the early and the 60s and 70s, people with learning disabilities were just put away, was the word they used, put away in long-stay hospitals far out in the country so they wouldn't be seen. And they were considered a burden. They didn't have any value at all. They just had to be cared for and forgotten, really. I think parents were often told to just forget their child, put them away and forget them. The idea that they had gifts, that something that was of value to the world, was just absolutely radical.
The institutions were always outside of towns and cities, so they were quite difficult to get to. They were often built in the 19th century. They were totally enclosed and prison-like. I mean, you'll see on photographs that there are bars at the windows to stop people either from escaping or from throwing themselves out.
When L'Arche started, many families had their people taken to what were really mental hospitals, and often they lived with people with mental health problems as well. So there were these very big institutions that we were part of the movement to close those institutions.
You actually strangle your man into a state of unconsciousness.
When people came to live in the communities, living in L'Arche, it was very usual for people to carry all of their belongings around with them in a bag and be incredibly possessive about their things in their bag. One of the women who lived in our community used to keep bread in her handbag. I mean, this is like concentration camp stuff. She couldn't believe that she would be in a place where she wouldn't be hungry. Sadly, most of the people who came from the institutions, not all of them, but most of them have now died. It wasn't just to do with having a learning disability, but I think that the trauma that they experienced in the institutions shortened their lives. So many did not make old bones. So somebody coming into L'Arche now might not necessarily come across or need to support somebody who had that experience. They might. And the person will still carry the scars.
Those who were in institutions and those who perhaps came from other settings, I mean, they often experienced a lot of what we would call abuse on many levels. Immediately comes to mind somebody in the community in London who described how wonderful it was to have her own clothes. That when she lived in this institution, there was a big trolley that used to come round and they'd just throw, it was a communal wash for 200 people, and sometimes you got a long vest and sometimes you got a short vest. But just to have my own clothes. So it was very simple but fundamental things like that. And then the freedom to go out into the surroundings and say hello to people. And I mean, all that was a revolution in those days for them. Some of them had lived for decades in these hospitals, long-stay hospitals. So the joyful rebellion was this discovery of freedom, really, and also community, because I think most of those people didn't necessarily have a strong relation with their own families, but they did have a strong relation with each other. And in spite of the conditions of some of these institutions, secretly, community was going on. And I mean, it's so obvious that it wasn't the assistants who were good at making community, it was the people who who came, who were welcomed, who really made community.
We did not want to be another institution. We did not want to be self-enclosed and you got everything you needed within, the community. What's essential for all of us is to ensure that we do not rebuild the institution where we are, either from my attitudes, my prejudices, my preconceptions, the ways in which I might think of myself as being all-encompassing and offering everything that might be needed for this person, keeping that outside face toward the local community. People's place in the local community is essential.